So to get started, I'm going to open up Procreate and create a new canvas. When you open up the app, you'll notice that you have a gallery here with all of your drawings, or all of my drawings. Up in the top right corner, you'll see a plus sign. That's where you can create a new canvas. So if you tap on that, you'll see a number of different options based on the aspect ratio and a particular frame size that you would like. I'm actually just going to go with a square format, the one that comes preloaded here. So it's 2048 pixels by 2048. You'll notice that once you do that, you tap on it and it opens up a new canvas. At the top of the screen here, you'll see this kind of control bar. The wrench here will give you a lot of the settings about your canvas. Here you can edit and incorporate a perspective guide. Important thing here is under this kind of camera icon you'll see are the video settings. So I have this selected as on. So time-lapse recording on. So I do want to be recording my time-lapse the entire time. I could also live broadcast or replay it immediately from inside, but that's an important setting to have. You can also adjust the preferences if you're left-handed or if you're right-handed. I'm pretty much happy with a lot of the built-in preferences. But you can play around with that if you don't like the way things look. And here's your layers panel. This will become really, really important for your sketch process and your color process. So you add more layers by adding with this plus sign, and you can rename them and you can access your layer styles. I'll show you a little bit more about that later on. So my goal for this project today is to export a time lapse to make a kind of really fun, beautiful video at the end. So I'm being a little bit mindful of the steps in which I do things so that it'll be really fun for a viewer to watch at the end. To start off, I'm going to work on an initial sketch where I'm just going to work out my ideas. Not a lot of this will make it into the final piece. I'm just going to make a lot of mistakes and figure out where things are falling on the canvas. Once I've figured out exactly what I want, I'm going to take that and bring it into a new canvas where I'll work on the color, the texture, and the lighting and really bring it to life. So to get started, I'm going to work on, I already have a layer one, but if you wanted to create a new layer, you would just add one. So I'm going to start sketching. I like to use under pencils or under sketching, you'll find all these pencil tools. I really like to use the technical pencil, but you'll find there are softer ones, the HB and the 6B, to kind of get really loose lines. But I think the technical pencil works really well for me. I always, the canvas is like a smart canvas, so I always like to tilt it to the side to get.
We've all seen a digital collage or two, but the question I want to ask you is, when you see these pieces, what story do you feel that they tell? See, I think collages can be so much more than random cut and paste imagery. They can speak to someone's history. They can represent all that someone loved deeply. They could be a timeline, or they could be simply a motive. Working in a way that expresses exploration to put feelings and stories into art is essentially the definition of embracing the journey as you create, rather than being so concerned about the final result. Staying present through the process keeps us connected to our creative process, and I want that for you. I'm Peggy Dean, an author, artist, educator, and founder of The Pigeon Letters, a resource haven. And in this class, we'll be exploring the steps to building a collage with purpose. I'll be using the Procreate app on the iPad Pro, but you can use any software of your choosing. This class is for anybody who's looking to break outside the box of the day-to-day and just allow yourself to play. I'm gonna give you permission to play. Are you ready to play? Let's play. Now we can start actually building that up. When I see them all together right here, and I see her, I just think, like this could be a cool pairing with those clouds because there's so much contrast going on. So I'll insert this one and see what I can do with that. And two things. One, because this image was large enough to fill the whole canvas, I could either stretch it so that it takes up that space, or because I like this full view, I could just drop it in as is, and then I could go and crop my actual canvas so that it is that size instead of an 8 by 10. And so now it will be this dimension, these dimensions. Okay, so now I'm going to drag this below my gymnast. I don't know if she's a gymnast. I think it would be more fun to flip her upside down as if she is kind of like floating or falling into a space. I don't want this walkway here. I do like the water. I do like the mistiness. I may not even save this image. I may go with something else, but for now, I'm going to just experiment and see what I come up with. So I'm going to cut this part out and see what I can do instead. The part I'm hesitant about is I love this fog in here, but I don't want to do a soft fade. I want to do a choppy fade. So this might not work out very well, and if that's the case, then we will know. And then I will be able to edit from there. So I'm just doing something really loose. I think I'm actually going to take this all the way up along this tree because I think that's a nice line for separation. It also makes my job editing and cutting this out a lot easier. And then you can pick exactly where you want to go. Like I don't have to go along this fern, but I'm going to because I like it. I like the overhang, and it could be really cool overhanging on whatever I decide to insert below. It might be a little bit choppy, in which case I would want to fix that because I don't want it to be too bad. But we can also play with opacity of just like the edges or blend modes or whatever. So this part, as you are chopping stuff up, don't get too caught up on the details of, what that separation will look like. Just get it done, and then we can go back and play. Okay, so before I cut this out, I'm going to cut and paste it. So it's going to still exist. It's just going to be on a separate layer, and then I can turn that layer off. So 3-finger drag down, cut and paste. Now I have this on its own isolated layer and this on its own isolated layer. So with the bridge, I'm going to put that underneath and just turn it off. So now this is what I'm working with. It gives me opportunity to really play. So I think what would be kind of cool is to do like a mountain range. I do have a mountain that I saved. I don't think it's going to work for what I want, but it doesn't hurt to try it first. So I can put it where I want it, and then I can drag it above to see. Yeah, that's just not going to work. It's too formed, and I want something a little more jagged. I do like the contrasting colors, so I'm going to return to Unsplash here real fast, and I'm going to look up just mountains at first to see what comes up. Okay, a totally big shift as I'm exploring, and this will happen to you, is that here I've got a little portal. This could be really fun to overlay over this jungle. So I'm going to try that real quick and see how that works. So this is where I say, like, don't be married to an idea, because you might come up with something really cool like this, where you could just make that lots larger, have her falling through that portal. I might have to make her come down a bit. Okay, and now I'm going to turn her off real fast, and then I'm going to isolate the area that I want to cut out. I want to get rid of this sky completely. Your automatic selection tool could do the trick, but I feel like the edges are going to be pretty rough. Not a bad thing, but I'm just going to do it by hand real quick. So you saw how that like search rendered an opportunity. So that's where like our creativity really gets to thrive, when we are able to just give ourselves permission to pivot, to explore, to play, essentially. So I'm going to cut these now. Just a quick tip: if you're cutting and that's all you're doing, once you have your selection, you can click the arrow key and slide it off the canvas, and then select the arrow key again, and then you cut it off. I don't know why. For some reason, that's easier for me than to do. I don't know. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my gymnast back on, and I'm going to select the gymnast and the jungle, and I'm going to pull them down to about right here. Okay, so now my jungle is looking way less saturated, and I might want to actually move it independently of her. I don't know that I like that background necessarily anymore. I'll try upping the saturation, but I feel like even just the background isn't doing what I want it to. I want it to be more lush now because I love this composition and I think it's so fun. So I'm going to do that. I'll turn this off for now. I may use it, I may not. I don't think I'm going to, but now is the time that I can really play. All right, so I'm going to go back. Opportunity of shifting. Embrace. Okay, so I want to find something really lush. Just for that contrast. Oh, that could be cool because it's like the perspective is different. So I'm going to see what that looks like. I'm going to want to insert it in between or behind this canyon. So I'm going to the layer below that, not take a photo, insert a photo. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this and just kind of see how I can make this work, and does it look better with a small scale or a large scale? I think a large scale is good. I gotta flip it and see how that looks flipped, maybe flipped horizontally. I kind of like it when it's just off to the side, but I want this whole thing to show, so maybe smaller. So now, because this is behind and I don't have to worry about making such a perfect selection, since it's behind this one, I can just grab that area and cut it out and then insert something else there. Again, I may come back and remove some of this. I think I actually want this to be bigger though. I don't want her feet to get lost. So as much as I loved that little idea, I think I'm gonna, I might change that, but I won't make you watch me do it. We all get into that perfectionist mode where we're like overthinking everything. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Just play. Okay. I'll just do a little bit of it. You can see it's a palm tree. It is fun. Now I'll get rid of this part. And then I can find a galaxy. So find a good galaxy. I think I actually have one. It's the same way you'll find on Unsplash. They have a lot of great galaxies. And see, even just doing that is really fun. It's even more fun, I think, than the palm trees. So now I'm second guessing my whole life. But let's make this isolated. See, like I like those stars. They're pretty. I want them to be vibrant enough, but just position something to where you like it. So galaxies there. I'll see what this will look like if I snag the background on automatic and then insert a galaxy with the palm trees. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but it doesn't hurt to play and try. Whoops. Am I on the right layer? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so this might totally mess everything up, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try and we're gonna see. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Yeah, see, it didn't do well, but sometimes it won't matter. I'm just gonna try. So I'll insert that galaxy. See, it didn't do that bad of a job. When it has that dark behind it, it doesn't look that far off. And then now I can go back and lighten her and see. Yeah, that looks much better. So it looks like she's falling. I see that there is a little spot in the palm tree that I could get rid of, so I'll select that. I just don't want those white areas. Like some are okay. I'm not that picky about it. You could be, again, like you could be totally picky. I'm just not. It took me a long time to get to that point. Don't worry if you are like, I wish I could be like that, because I didn't used to be, and I was one that wished I could be like that. And now I'm like, whatever, it's gonna work. It's gonna be fine. So just gonna grab a couple of those. Why is that not? There we go. Couple of those, get rid of it so that I can see the background. But it's so small that it doesn't really matter. Now this part right here, that's part of the palm tree. Whoops, I don't want that there. It's distracting. So I could either pull it down so it's like really obviously part of things, or I could just get rid of it, which I want to get rid of. Okay, now that that part's done, I want more to happen here. So I'm actually going to crop it just a smidge because I don't want so much weight here toward the bottom. So if I go to canvas, crop and resize, I can pull that up a little. Just enough to where, yeah, now it's like the focus is more central. I just felt like there was a lot of heavy balance there. And now I want to do like some flowers coming off of the cliff area, but I think I want the flowers to be also kind of a vintagey vibe. I'm going to speed this part up because at this point you see how I'm looking at things and how I'm like exploring them and thinking about them in different types of ways. So I feel like for the most part I have things where I want them to go.
What I'm going to show you in this video is how to get a really lifelike marbling technique going. I show you how to make some beautiful abstract pieces of art full of movement, mood, and irregularities, and all on your iPad using the Procreate app. Hey, I'm Rich Armstrong from Tap Tap Kaboom. All you need is an iPad and Procreate. And Apple Pencil is optional. So I've got this pinky kind of a background, and I've got like a duck egg blue paint color. I'm going to go to painting and use my normal brush, and then really just put some paint on canvas in no particular way or order. And you should be pretty familiar with doing this by now. The next color I'm going to go for is kind of a darker blue. Yeah, that looks good. And again, just really applying some paint to the canvas. And just with 3 colors, should be pretty good. I'm then going to liquify. And I'm going to start with my push. And the reason I'm going portrait is when I start doing some twirling after the initial liquify. And you'll understand why I've chosen portrait. So take your distortion down and the size of the brush. Yeah, it can be about that. And then just do some normal in and outing with doing something weird. Okay, so it's a bunch of horizontal. Now let's do some vertical. And these colors are really working well together. Okay, so you probably know how to do something like that. It looks really, really good. Now we could do some distorting and it would work really well. But instead of doing that, I want you to use the twirl right tool. And then again, bring down your distortion and your size. Yeah, you can play around with the size, but something like that would be good. And then start from the left and work towards the right. And what we're going to do is we're not going to twirl in one place, but we're going to drag across almost like a smudge. And you can see that we're going to take this little piece of pink all the way from the left, all the way to the right. And it creates a kind of like drawing out, kind of a stroke from left to right. And then if we zoom in here, you do it just below it. And you can see there's a bunch of blue that we're bringing across from the left all the way to the right. And it's never going to be perfect because, hey, we're humans and that's part of the process. And that's why I really like this liquify kind of technique. So that's starting to look pretty good. And then let's go above. And you can see this pink guy that we're drawing from the left to the right. There we go. You just do it over and over and over, and you can experiment with the size of the twirl or the size of the brush. Fantastic. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. Now you could leave it at this, or you could use your twirl left with again no distortion and make the brush size a little bit smaller, and then go from the right to the left. And then go in between the previous brush stroke. There we go. Okay. And you can see how this is starting to really mimic a traditional kind of marble style of artwork. Looks really, really cool. And if you want to make it go down a little bit, just slow down. And if you want to make it go up, go a little bit faster. So if we go down, you can see I'm holding down and going a bit slower. If I go fast, you can see how I can make it go up. Okay, so that's why I'm using portrait, so I can go from left to right pretty easily, and I don't have these long stretches, but hey, if you want to try landscape, fantastic. Now, we could leave it at this, or we could do some distortion, but what I want you to try is this expand tool. For this, man, it works like a charm. So don't go for something too big. So perhaps 9%, try that. And you just find a certain place and press down. And what this does is it mimics like water droplets or some kind of irregularity within this process. And really just like pushes out a whole bunch of the colors around an area. And you can do this for wherever you feel like it. I find it really, really cool. And again, it mimics the traditional marbling process. Okay, so we've got a couple of these little dotty things. You can adjust your size if you really want to create something bigger. Something like that, or if you want to go really, really small. Again, you can spend hours just adding these finer details to your piece. Okay, so once you've got a couple of these little dots that mimic kind of water splats or, I don't know, some kind of irregularity within your piece, then I'd go towards push, bring up the distortion, bring up the size, and then just do some general pushing and pulling, just to make it a little bit more irregular, bring out some of this distortion, make these things not so perfect. And there we go. There is your piece. And it looks a lot more familiar, a lot more like a real life marbling piece. So have fun with this new technique and yeah, enjoy.